Hi, I am back for a second installment on the Reverend Absalom Jones, whose feast we are going to be celebrating this Sunday at St. Andrew's Church here in Shippensburg. Mother Barbara and I thought that it would be a good idea if I did introduction to him because this is the first time we'll be celebrating his feast, and to give you a little bit of an idea about who he is. For this segment, I'm going to be reading from the history of Absalom Jones. It is we have printed in the back of this week's bulletin. So if you don't get a chance to come to church or you don't get the bulletin, I'm going to be giving you a souped up version of that. That is, I'll read it and then I'll just add some things to it as I remember as we go along. So the Reverend Absalom Jones was born in 1746 and he died in 1818. I think I said last week he was born in 1742, but he was born in 1746. The life and legacy of the Reverend Absalom Jones is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, his faith, and his commitment to the causes of freedom, justice, and self-determination. Absalom Jones was born into slavery in Sussex County, Delaware on November the 6th, 1746. And I'm going to stop here briefly and tell you that Sussex County is along, you ride through it on your way on Route 13. For me, that is on my way to the beach. But also to let you know that the current rector of the African Episcopal Church of St. Thomas, the Reverend Dr. Martini Shaw, his birthday is also on November 6th. So that's probably divine providence. Continuing. During the 72 years of his life, Absalom grew to become one of the foremost leaders among persons of African descent during the post-revolutionary period. In his younger years in Delaware, Absalom sought to learn to read. When he was 16, his owner, Benjamin Wynkoop, brought him to Philadelphia, where he served as a clerk and a handyman in a retail store. He was able to work for himself in the evenings and keep his earnings. He also briefly attended a school run by the Quakers where he learned mathematics and handwriting. I'm going to stop briefly here to mention about this school. The school probably was a school run by a Quaker named Anthony Benezet, who founded a school specifically for African Americans in Philadelphia. And as any of you who are historians of Pennsylvania history know, that the Quakers were great abolitionists in Pennsylvania. In fact, the first protest, the first European protest against slavery was in Philadelphia, in the Germantown section where many Quakers lived, and there is a historical marker in East Germantown where I used to live commemorating this protest. So this school, that the Quaker school, may have been Anthony Benezet's school. In 1770, Absalom married Mary Thomas and purchased her freedom. It was not until 1784 that he obtained his own freedom through manumission. And what is notable about this is that in 1770, Pennsylvania passed a law that began the gradual manumission of slavery, the gradual abolition of slavery in Pennsylvania. Why it's significant that Absalom purchased his wife's freedom is because the law said that you, even though if you were born of a mother who was a slave from 1770 on, you still had 28 years of indentured servitude, which means that still you were born into slavery for 28 years. So Absalom wanted to make sure that his kids were not indentured or enslaved at all after their births. So he purchased his wife's freedom, and then 14 years later, probably took him 14 years to get enough together to purchase his own freedom. He also owned property. So I'm thinking also that not only did he take him 14 years to purchase his own freedom, but he was probably using that money to provide income for his family as well. So, and remember, we're still in a time of slavery. Slavery is not, there's no emancipation in this country for almost another 100 years. So just keep that in mind. This man is doing this in the enslaved environment of this country. I continue. During this period, he met Richard Allen, who became a lifelong friend. In 1787, they organized the Free African Society as a social, political, and humanitarian organization helping widows and orphans and assisting in sick relief and burial expenses. And it is notable that the preamble of the Free African Society was written, the charter was written of the Free African Society on April the 12th of 1778. And if you read that, you can read it in the annals of the First African Church of the United States, written by the Reverend William Douglas, who was a rector of St. Thomas, I believe, around 1855. He wrote a history of the church, and he has the copy of the charter and the preamble in the annals. And if you look at the wording of the preamble, it very much is reminiscent of the wording of the Constitution of the United States, the preamble to the Constitution of the United States, which is not yet written. The Confederation Congress started working on the Constitution of the United States a month later after this preamble was written. But we already had the first and second Constitutional Congresses of the United States already. So you can see how Absalom and Richard Allen are listening to what's going on around them in Philadelphia and bringing that into the formation of an organization for the support of African Americans. I digressed, however. In 1787, they organized the Free African Society. Jones and Allen were also lay preachers at St. George's Methodist Episcopal Church in Philadelphia, where their evangelistic efforts met with great success and their congregation multiplied tenfold. As a result, racial tensions flared, ultimately led to a historic walkout from St. George's. And their congregation, which multiplied tenfold, was an early morning congregation before the regular congregation where the white membership came. And the racial tensions that flared was because there's so many African Americans that were becoming members of this church to hear these two great preachers, Allen and Jones. Richard Allen's autobiography has the description of Absalom Jones on his knees praying, and I guess somebody like the verger told Absalom Jones, you have to get up and go to the galley, which they had built for African Americans to worship. That was not uncommon during a time of slavery to separate the two congregations. But it was uncommon in Philadelphia, and the African Americans did not like the fact that they had to be relegated to sit in the galley. And I can't help but imagine that Absalom remaining on his knees to prayer was also a protest against that. But when told to get up, he left the church, and all of the African Americans left with him. But why that is historic is because it started the movement and the energy for the formation of this first African church. I continue. In